This show and this episode would not be possible without our presenting sponsor, Add a Day. Add a Day's mission is to help people improve their lives and live their lives to the fullest. This episode is also brought to you by Gatorade Endurance. So thank you to these sponsors, and make sure you check out their website links and the coupon code in the descriptions below. Okay, I want to know more about you. Not because of just your success in your sport, but truly like what makes you tick and why are you so full of joy? How do you normally approach a race like that?
I wouldn't change it for anything because of that accomplishment and that feeling.
I had fun time with you just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
You took me for a day of training.
Your first day, you weren't even sore. First day of
yeah, I haven't done
cross-country skiing.
Oh yeah, not only cross-country skiing, but I haven't done much swimming
Yep.
or biking. We didn't do any biking. I run a little bit still, and I surf, but I'm not in any triathlon shape by any means. And I got to come and just hang out with you. It was super fun. Wasn't super fun getting up at 5 a.m. from Hawaii time.
No, yeah, it's like you didn't even go to bed, right? That would have been
it's like a couple hours of sleep
or something.
It was like 2 a.m. for me. But it was fun. It was a good swim, and it was fun just to come and hang out and to see your personality and your just kind of like your excitement for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a burden. It was fun. I felt like we just were two guys just cruising. It wasn't like specific training. We were training. You got a workout in. I mean, you did your last 200 pull, and what'd you do it in?
152.
152. Yeah, I don't think I could ever do a 152.
But I was just talking to one of the coaches, and the level of swimming it's just gotten insane, even on the high school level. He said there's a local high school kid going 133 in the 200 free right now.
Are you serious?
Yes. I'm like, that was back when we were swimming. That was good for a relay. Like if your high school relay went 133.
Yeah. What's Olympic qualifying at 100? If you were to guess,
I would say mid 130, like 134 or 135 probably.
So that kid's kind of right in there.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, it's got to. How much faster those guys go? I don't even know.
Yeah. And the Ironman's fast as well. Now you're swimming.
Yeah.
You guys are swimming pretty fast.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that today when I was swimming. I got hit with a surprise 6K swim set this morning.
So what was the main set?
Main set was 10 4s.
10 400s.
10 400s, yeah. Odds, swim, a little bit more aerobic, evens, pull, a little faster.
Okay, so for those that aren't triathletes or swimmers, how many laps in a normal pool is a 400?
So a 400 is back in, I guess laps it would be what?
It's 4 laps per 100.
Right.
So
4 lengths per 100.
4 lengths per 100. Yeah.
So 16 lengths. Yeah.
16 lengths.
Yeah.
And you're doing that in, how long did it take you? Or what were you holding? Were you holding the same for all 10?
Yeah, no, I was holding around like 420s on the pole and 430s, 435s on the swim kind of cruise.
And you were leaving on the 5 minute.
5 and 445.
So not much rest, 15 seconds rest. No, 30 seconds rest. 50.
Yeah. And that was more of an aerobic set, so.
Dude, that would be max threshold for me.
It was good, yeah.
Especially right now, I wouldn't even be able to finish it. Maybe get 2 of them done, if that.
But when I was swimming, I was thinking about the swim in Hawaii, and now that we're getting some of the more relevant Olympic guys, Olympic distance athletes like Alistair Brownlee, Javier Gomez, obviously Jan is in there. It's good for me because you can really make something happen on the swim.
We can break it up a little bit.
And I've been doing that race since 2011. And every year I'm like, this is the year there's going to be a break in the swim that's going to mean something.
Yeah.
And last year was finally the first year where that break meant something. So it was kind of nice.
Yeah. I mean, you had an amazing year. Last year you went under 8 hours.
Under 8 hours,
the World
yeah.
Champs.
Yep. First time under 8 hours in Kona for me, for an American.
Yeah, first American ever to go under 8 hours in Hawaii.
Yep.
At the World Champs. Yeah, every race is a little bit different. Hawaii, I would say from the years that I raced it and watched it for so many years, that is the hardest course.
Yeah.
I think not only course-wise, it's difficult. It's not as easy as everyone would think by looking at it. There's a lot more elevation climb.
Yeah.
But you have the winds and you have the scalding heat, and humidity.
Yeah. And you have the pressure of a World Championships.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And I think people take that a little for granted. Everybody wants to be in their best shape going into the biggest race of the year.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you get guys that, and this has been me in the past as well. You overdo it. You train too much. You're in awesome shape, but you're just kind of a little too overcooked to really utilize it. The stress and pressure of a world championships, right? And then you get, sometimes you make stupid mistakes in the race. You get a little too aggressive. You get anxious, and you pay the price.
So how do you normally approach a race like that? Is it different than any other Ironman or any other race that you do, like the week before? Like, do you have to do any different prep or mindset or staying relaxed? Like, what's your approach for that week? Because it's a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the energy on the island, and you live there, so I mean, you must the difference.
Changes.
Yeah, you see race week versus the rest of the year must be insane, right? Like, it's just a whole different place.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, you have to be smart because there's so much energy running. Like, I mean, you get up there, there's like tension and excitement. There's so many different emotions. You have to deal with that, and then you have to deal with a lot more kind of pre-race obligations. Your time is precious that week, and everybody wants a piece of it. So you just have to be smart. You have to have a good plan going into race week of what you need to do, and you have to understand that you need to kind of stick with that and not get stressed about it. That's what you have to do, and just have to kind of go with the flow a little bit that race week.
Was this year a little different in race week in that you were hurt, right?
Yep.
Like 6 weeks prior to, is that right?
Yep.
You
7 weeks.
7 weeks. You fractured your foot or your metatarsal?
I did. I broke my fifth met.
Fifth met.
Yeah. And it's an injury that I had before. In January of 18, I broke it. And I didn't realize it didn't heal properly. So it was a non-fibrous union.
Okay.
So the bone actually was, just think of like scar tissue holding the bone together.
So the crack was still there.
So it was the same crack, yeah. So the crack was being held together by basically scar tissue, right?
Wow.
And I inverted my foot on a run 7 weeks out before Kona, and I just tore that scar tissue and rebroke it.
So normally if you break a bone, you're usually out for two months with a cast.
Yeah.
Obviously in the Met, you can't really cast it. You got to just stay off of it. Were you in a boot, or how did you approach it?
I was in a boot for a little bit. Yeah, when I originally broke it, I was in a boot for 8 weeks. I was super just kind of serious, about making sure it healed properly, and just bad luck, because the doctor said it was bad luck the way it healed. But I was in a boot for a little while. It was crazy. I didn't run until, maybe 2 weeks before the race. Not even. I did 4 or 5 runs outside.
Literally didn't run at all.
Well, I was on the Ultra G treadmill. First I was aqua jogging because I couldn't put any weight on it.
You could still bike though.
I could still bike on a trainer, but I couldn't get out of the saddle. So I had to be, very smart about that. Luckily, a cycling shoe has a hard carbon sole.
So there's no flex to it.
So there's no flex, right?
Yeah.
So my foot is just down like this, but any motion like this, and I was done. So, I couldn't get a lot of that lateral movement that you need to get out of the saddle.
So when that happened, when you got the call or when you got the diagnosis that you cracked your foot again, you're 7 weeks out from the world champs.
Yep.
One that your goal is to, what's your goal in the Ironman? It's to win, right?
Yeah, it's to win. I've been on the podium there before.
A lot of times. You've been on the podium almost every spot in the top 10.
Yeah.
And but I'm curious about how your thought process was when you found out you broke your foot. If the whole lead up, your whole year was built solely around the world champs.
Yeah.
Right? Like you didn't care about any other races. It was about your drive and your goal. Your one goal for the whole year was that race.
Yep. And, it started before that, Chris. In March, I was in a cycling accident, broke a bunch of ribs. So my whole year was just like, it was turned upside down. I was meant to do Ironman Texas in April, couldn't get to the start line there. I was going to do Ironman Brazil in May, couldn't get to the start line there. Finally got to the start line in Boulder, Ironman Boulder. Barely got my Kona slot.
So that was kind of your first race of the year.
That was my first race of the year in June. Usually I don't like to do an Ironman the first race of the year. I like to do some shorter races to build up to that. I was completely unprepared for that race. Had a great swim, had a great bike. Pathetic run. was about to drop out with about 9 miles to go. My legs are blown up, and I thought about Izzie, my daughter Izzie, who at the time was just under 2. And I'm like, you know what? I can suck it up for 90 minutes to get to the finish line and hold my head up high. And at that time, I was going backwards. People were passing me. I'm like, I'm not going to qualify for Kona. And I had like come to terms with it. But I just said, all right, let's just get to the finish line for Izzie. Once I changed that mindset that I wasn't going to drop out, things started to come around. And I was able to hold on to the podium and get that Kona slot. So all up through June, the year was just insane.
Yeah.
And then I really got some momentum after I recovered from Boulder, got some momentum, had a great race in July in Santa Rosa, and was really excited in August as I was building into that Kona block, and then bam, broken foot.
Yeah.
So
So what do you I mean, there's so much I want to ask you, but and we only have a limited amount of time. But looking at the way that your process was through Ironman,
right,
when you thought about Izzie, and then also in a similar way of when you get a setback and something goes wrong, right? So you're in Ironman.
Yep.
You're not feeling good. Your legs are blown. Mentally, you're telling yourself not great things, right? Like, I feel horrible.
Yeah. You have
my
the
legs
negative
hurt.
self-talk.
Yeah. So what were you telling yourself? Legs hurt.
Yeah.
Not qualifying.
Yeah. Basically, like, you know what? Like, your quads are blown up. You bite too hard. You weren't ready for this. You're disrespectful to this race and your competition, thinking you could do this. And
because you're out there for a long time and you're by yourself.
Yep.
And I was doing this all the time when I was racing. You talk to yourself.
Yeah.
You sing, or you talk to yourself, or you think about other things. You distract yourself. Yep. But it's very easy to fall into either positive self-talk or negative self-talk. Yeah. And you were definitely in a place of
it was a place of negativity, and
you just spiral.
And you do. You're absolutely right. It just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. And that was at the point where I'm like, I'm gonna have to start walking. My legs are so far gone. I'm gonna have to start walking. But
then you think about your daughter.
Yeah, you think about something else, and then I think the most important part is making a decision in your head of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Once I made the decision that dropping out was not an option, it just kind of turned everything over in my head, and it's not easy to get to that point. But once I did, it's like, okay, my legs started feeling better, and it still took a lot physically and mentally to hold a decent pace those last 9-10 miles.
Yeah.
A pace that was good enough to hold on. But the other part of this is these guys are pulling me in, right? Like, I'm about to lose my spot. I make that decision that I'm not going to quit. And I start running a little bit better. And then I hear that they're starting to hurt too, right? So then, as we're talking about, you get a little competitive. You get a little glimpse of hope, right? You get a little positive, little positivity in your brain.
Yeah.
And that's huge,
Yeah.
So with that, when, knowing that and saying, hey, I'm not quitting. Hey, there's still a chance for Kona. Okay, well, then you have to shift in the mindset of not what do you want to do, but what do you need to do to make it happen? So I just immediately started focusing on my technique and my running and trying to hold my form together. Even though I wasn't running super fast, people saw me like, yeah, you still looked like you were holding it together.
Yeah.
So I really just started focusing on, okay, what do I need to do to hold my run together so I do hold on to the podium and qualify for Kona?
Yeah, when you make that decision of like, okay, I'm not going to drop.
Yep.
The pain doesn't go away. The hurt doesn't go away. The fact that you're as far as depleted or not or not in as good a shape as you want to be because of everything that happened, you can only control what you can control. But by having those talks and those discussions with you, then you can focus on, all right, what can I control?
Right.
Let me look at my posture. Let me look at how I'm running. Let me look at this next guy that I see is hurting a little bit as well. Okay, that's another positive thing. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting past him or whatever. And then things start. Then that, instead of the downward spiral of bad talk, it becomes almost like an upward spiral to a certain extent.
Yeah, you have to guide the narrative, right?
Yeah.
And what you just mentioned, Chris, about knowing what you can and can't control is so important. A lot of times we get stuck focusing on uncontrollables, and you can't win that. Yeah. You can't win that situation, all you can do, and this is, maybe as we segue into talking about coming off of the broken foot, that was one of the most important things for me was, okay, I get the diagnosis that my foot's broken. I can't think about the fact that I can't run. I have to think about what can I do to put myself in the best situation, giving the cards I've been dealt. I had my hand to play. How am I going to play it? I can't focus on the cards I didn't get. I'm not holding pocket, aces, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, how do we play the hand I've been dealt?
And then what'd you do? So you looked at aqua running, you said.
Yep.
So you can't run on the road, but you're like, it doesn't mean I can.
Yeah.
I don't have to stop running.
Well, so first thing I gave myself one night of sulking, yeah.
Right,
So I came home. I actually got an MRI at night because I had X-rays done and it didn't show the break. And I went and got an MRI, and the tech, who's not supposed to do this, the tech was just like, "Oh yeah, that's broken as hell." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" So for me, at that moment, I'm like, "I'm done. There's no way I'm going to race Kona."
Yeah.
I've had this injury before, so I went home. I had a bottle of wine. I opened a really nice bottle of wine, but I said to myself, "All right, you have tonight, and then tomorrow we're going to figure out a plan that's going to put you in the best situation possible, giving the circumstances I'm in right now, to have a chance of success in Kona."
Yeah.
And yeah, so then right away we started thinking, okay, well, maybe we can focus on some technique stuff on the swim, because I couldn't even flip turn. So a lot of drills and things like that. And then, all right, let's get some aqua jogging in if we can. And then, as it got a little bit better and I could ride a little bit more, okay, let's have a really big cycling focus. I can't get the run mileage in, but hey, I can be super fit on the bike. And things like that. And then closer to the race, let's find a zero gravity treadmill, and maybe we can get some turnover stuff going and get that neuromuscular training. And it was just doing what we could to have just a little chance of success.
Yeah. So you're looking at the things obviously that you can as far as control, but looking at things in a different lens or a different way to improve, right? So when you're training for an Ironman, you're doing so much swimming and biking and running, you have a limited amount of time that you can actually train.
Right.
And then you do your workouts and you don't have time to focus as much on the little things or new approaches or whatever. So this gave you an opportunity to approach it a slightly different way than you did in the past.
Yeah, and to be honest, Chris, I had never, in my opinion, run to my potential in Hawaii. And I've had some years where I've been in insane run fitness, absolutely insane run fitness, but it didn't translate to having a good run. So at one point in this process, I said to myself, well, it actually, hasn't really worked out in the past the way I wanted to. So maybe something different can have a different result.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I look at it as a positive that
totally.
I had this, even though I wasn't planning on it, I had this chance to try something different going into a world championship, which most people are super scared and hesitant to do, right? It's very risky to try something different going into such an important race.
I heard this somewhere that to be successful or to have a successful result, to reach that goal, can you do it without facing fears or taking risk? And have you ever done anything great that you didn't take a risk?
No.
It seems like everything.
I think that's the whole definition of doing something great, right?
Yeah. Or else everyone would do it.
Right.
Because most people in your situation, with that fact that they broke their foot, would have done what you did the first night and said, I'm not racing.
Yep.
And wouldn't have just spent one night doing it. They would have spent a week or 2 weeks or a month or even longer and got in a rut that they wouldn't have gotten out of.
Right.
But you were quick to notice it, address it, and shift it.
Yeah, when it's almost you set yourself up, you understand that, being in that kind of negative, defeated mind space is going to happen. But if you get ahead of yourself and say, okay, I'm going to allow it for this amount of time, you can avoid that downward spiral, same as the negative self-talk that is so easy to fall into. So by getting ahead of it and taking control of it and putting limits on it and saying it's going to be this, and then after this, I'm going to do this, I think that's really important.
And something that I think is important also to address and accept your feelings. Because I think a lot of times we just, as humans, we kind of, and in relationships or whatever, you get hurt or something happens, and especially guys, we stuff it, right? And we move on, right? Just ignore that feeling. Just keep moving.
Close the lid, lock it up,
and let's go, right? And so many of us do, and we find that ends up compounding and creating longer issues later on that kind of burst out, or just emotionally, or just in getting anything done, right? So for you to be able to go, okay, I'm accepting what's happening. I'm going to embrace the feeling of what that may mean, and you allowed yourself to feel. So you're letting yourself go through that cycle of accepting it, and then you're like, okay, I've gone through it.
Right.
And then you're done. You're not hiding it. You're not putting it in a box. You're not closing it and then moving on. You're like, I've gone through it, and now I can put it down, and now I'm in a new place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't think about that before until you were just explaining that process and how you did that. And I think that's something I think we all, as far as can learn from example, that you can actually have a better result in the end when something bad happens than if something didn't happen that kept you on the path that you were on already.
Right.
Because who knows what would have happened if you didn't get hurt, but you had, would you say it was one of the best races you've had in Hawaii? I mean,
I think
finish-wise, it was.
And I think in terms of execution of a race, it was my best race in terms of executing well.
Yeah.
And along those lines, Chris, I think, when you have that challenge, it really makes you appreciate just being able to do what you do.
Yeah.
And you have a sense of gratitude. I was so happy that I was just in Hawaii and able to start the race, that everything else was gravy, I was winning already. I was, and actually in the last couple of years, I've been, like I said, I've been doing this race a long time. And I'm always like, I need a year off. I need to take a break, and then I'll come back really strong. And but then when I was faced in reality that I may not get to race, I realized, no, I want to race. I want to race every chance I get here.
Yeah. And
that just really filled me up with a sense of gratitude for being able to be on the start line.
I see that you're such a family guy, and that you care so much for your family. And that week, it just seems like you didn't have as much pressure.
For sure. And I think part of that was that I think a lot of expectations were lessened on me from both internal and external. So that's sometimes a good thing too. Yeah,
and I don't know if we actually said where you finished, but you ended up finishing second.
Yep.
In the world at the World Champs. That's amazing. Yeah. And it looked like you were just more relaxed, more comfortable. And I would have guessed if you didn't run for very long that you would have beat up your quads more. But were you feeling as much pain, or was there a lot of...
No, I felt pretty good on the run, which is crazy. That was actually the fastest run I've ever had in Hawaii as well. So,
what was the run time?
I ran in 2:49. So first time I broke in 2:50 in Hawaii. Like you said, it's not an easy course.
Yeah.
But to be able to have not only have my best performance there, but have my fastest run off of the given circumstances was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I had one of the guys on my team, Lawrence Van Lingen, who does a lot of body work and things for me. He was there, and he this is Wednesday before race week. He's like, Tim, you just need to show your heart. Put yourself in a place of vulnerability when you're out there on the run. A lot of us it's hard to put yourself fully out there, because if you fail, then you know that the best version of yourself wasn't good enough. So I think a lot of people hold back. But if you don't just let it go, then I don't think you're even have a chance of seeing your best performance. And it lined up really well with my daughter Izzie, who is obsessed with Frozen. So the theme "Let It Go,"
okay,
like the song Frozen, kind of was running through my head. Just let it go,
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about that, because I just want to hear a little bit more on the depth of that, being vulnerable and being open,
right,
and letting go. What does that look like in a run? But it seems like it also comes from a place of emotion.
Yeah.
And so share a little bit more about that. Like, what was that to you? What were those things, or what were the things that you were thinking of, and what were the things that got you through that?
I hit the run, and actually, right when I got off my bike, and running through transition, my legs felt pretty good. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, we could do something great here, And I was coming out of transition, and I saw my run. The split was like 5:09 something. So, and then I had another thing like, okay, well, you can break 8 hours, which has been one of your lifetime goals, but to do it, you have to run under 250. And we're like, well, you haven't done that before, but
you were thinking all this while you're running.
Yeah.
Okay.
So forget it, not forget it. Like, you can do it. Be like, all right, well, if you want to do it, then you better run under 250. But from that point on, it was quiet. I didn't think about any of that stuff. I just thought about the things I need to do to run well, and showing my heart. And I was actually yelling that not yelling it, but saying it under my breath when the cameramen were right there.
Show your heart.
Yeah, I'm like, show your heart, Dio. Because it was a cue as well for kind of putting my chest in the right position when I'm running.
Yeah.
But I think it was just something that clicked with me internally, and it was just in me. It wasn't a lot of. It was just there, and it just, when he said it to me Wednesday before race week, everything clicked, and it just put me in this space. The space that I needed to be in. And it's hard to explain, but when you find something that resonates, you just have to hold on to it and use it.
You're giving everything you have.
Yeah.
Right? You're laying yourself out there. And there's also that sense of like emotionally letting yourself go.
Yeah.
Opening it up. Like you said, open your heart.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, at moments, it's like, my spouse, it's my kids, it's my friends or support team, right, or whatever. And do you think about that when you're out there? Like, is it for the team, or do you feel that pressure or that expectation with it? Or do you feel like that is different and it was more just about you and your journey in that?
You go through waves. You obviously want to honor everybody that puts so much into you, because it's a selfish sport, right? And we need to take a lot to race so well. And everybody in our support team doesn't get any recognition. It's an individual sport that takes a team, which is insane.
Yeah.
And on top of that, and I'm sure you experienced this as well, being one of the American hopefuls to win that World Championship, which we haven't done since 2002.
Yeah, since 10.
There's a lot of pressure there too, and you want to do it for the U.S. You want to do it for your country. But the years that I've really focused on that, I haven't raced well, mm-hmm, because I'm focusing on a result and not the process. Mm-hmm. So this past year, I took the energy that everybody had for me, and my family came out. Almost my entire family, with the exception of my brother Matthew and his wife, were there. My parents hadn't been there since 2011, my first year, where I did not finish, and they didn't come back after that. They're like, nope, we're not coming back. So to have them there, through experience and I guess just being an older athlete and having a little more wisdom, I was able to take their energy and their positivity and their support and their love and just bring that into me. Not the pressure of having to perform for them, yeah, but knowing that they're there to support me.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
And just using that energy and that love.
Yeah, totally. Like I feel like, yeah, you can't race for somebody, and your result does not hinge on if they love you or not.
Right.
Right? Like, yeah. The love is there if you finished first,
yep,
or if you finished 10th, or if you finished last. And so many times, like you said, it's a sport that we're judged on our performance.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yep.
You look at your training, you look at your results, you look at your numbers. I got to improve, I got to build. Your financial year depends on your results.
Yeah.
Your sponsors, are you going to get a sponsor? Are you going to lose a sponsor?
Yeah, on one day.
On one day. So your results, what you do and your results equals acceptance or equals support,
right,
or equals love or whatever. but you get to a point, and I totally feel it and see it, that you got it to that day, that it was not about that.
Yep.
And that you raced, not as if you were racing for yourself. And this is me speaking of what I'm seeing, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I see it as like you were racing not for yourself, but from yourself.
Yep.
Of being free.
Yep.
Of being who you truly are and seeing what that gives.
Yeah.
And it's because of your loved ones, it's because of our relationships that allows us to be true to who we are. And I don't know, it is awesome just to hear. And I just feel that like it was just like your day to just pour it out there.
Yeah.
And it all came.
Yeah. And I think like when you're in that space of like vulnerability, showing your heart, you're not worried about the negative stuff, like blowing up on the run or, or the other guys, how they're racing versus you. You're just in that space where like, okay, I'm here and I'm putting my best version of myself out. And that's what's in my control. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I think it really helps you just stay on task and kind of stay out of those dark places that can inevitably show up on such a hard day.
Yeah. You face your fears.
Yep.
And you're like, it doesn't matter if I don't finish, if I drop out or if I blow up or whatever. Not drop out, but if you blow up or something happens.
Yeah, here I am,
Yeah. Lay it out there. So good. So good. And then to finish and to see your wife was there, Rennie was there. She races as well, as far as professionally. And it wasn't a great day for her, but she made it a great day by being able to
Yep.
To be there for you.
And crazy story, side story. My wife Miranda Rennie, if you're not familiar with the sport, she's a 3-time Ironman World Champion. Obviously, that was coming back from having our daughter Izzie, so that was her second Kona after having Izzie, and she broke her elbow 5 weeks out of Kona, just tripped and put her hand down to stop, and just totally unfortunate. But so it was a hard day for her too, and she was coming back on the bike, and
it's good.
A little emotional.
Good.
Had to swim this morning. She was coming back on the bike and having a horrible day. Her glute locked up. She had a great swim. She's so worried about her elbow that I think she was missing some of her normal body maintenance stuff throughout the last couple of weeks before the race. Her glute locked up. Anyway, she's coming back in on the bike, and I'm running out, and she sees Jan, who was in the lead, and she's like, please be Tim next. And then she sees me. She gets off her bike.
Right there.
Drops her bike in the lava field and just gets out and starts supporting me and cheering.
No way. Gets me all.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, so good. So good.
Yeah, but I mean, to have someone who is like, the absolute top of the sport, still holds the run course record in Kona for the women, 250.
So did you break her?
That was the other cool part. I got the house record now. But to have someone at that level of the sport, like, there and understand the importance for me and our family and be able to share that with me was pretty cool.
Yeah. She was there to see you on the run and support you and then be there at the finish line. Yeah. With Izzie too, yeah.
With Izzie, yeah.
How was that?
It was awesome, yeah. And Izzie, like, I was telling you this a couple days ago. It was a couple days after the race, and I was just walking with Izzie. We were still in Hawaii on a little vacation, and she was talking about the finish. At 2 years old.
It's something she'll remember forever.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. This was pretty cool.
Yeah. How is it being a dad? How is that?
It's been awesome. It's hard having 2 professional athletes and managing that, but it changes your whole perspective and makes going out on those 6 or 7 hour training rides a little harder. Yeah. We find ourselves training at home in our home gym a little bit more, but it changes your perspective. It makes you realize that nothing's as important as her, including the silly little sport that we do called triathlon. And it just brings a lot more joy to your day.
Yeah, I bet you're excited to get home every day.
Yeah, you really are. Yeah, the first 6 months as a dad, it's always hard because that connection's not the same, right, as with the mom, and they need their mother. But now that she's 2.5 and she's really turning into daddy's girl, it's pretty amazing.
Who was an influential person in your life growing up? Who was?
I definitely say my dad. Definitely most.
You were real
influential.
close to your dad.
Yeah. He. Well, I'm the youngest of four, and we're within 4.5 years. So we're all very close, and we moved around a lot. My dad had a lot of transfers in his work. So the three, my two brothers and I were particularly close. But he was just always such a great example for us, and he always prioritized us. Made a lot of sacrifices, him and my mom, to make sure we had every opportunity we had, and that's what my parents were all about. We're going to put you in the best schools we can, and we're going to try to, get you in a great sport that's going to get you into, the best universities you can. And we want to give you the opportunities, and then you can, make your path from there. So, as Rennie always says, my dad's nickname is Adista, but she always says, what would Adista do if we have a moral dilemma or something like that? Because he's just such an upright stand-up guy, and, just really great role model.
Do you reach out to him still for advice on certain things?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, actually, he was sending me emails this morning talking about the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team, and how the Miracle on Ice.
No way.
And he's like, "Yep, this is Hawaii this year." So it's pretty cool, yeah. And from a sporting wise, Craig Alexander has always been, great role model for me. We spent a lot of time with him in Boulder here training, and he's a guy that won Hawaii 3 times. Guy, you've done battle with him so many times.
Yeah, he beat me one time. One time I got second, like you, and he beat me. And
at the 7.3 Worlds too, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I would say I would have been a 2-time world champion if it wasn't for Craig.
If Crowe was never here.
Yeah.
Crowe.
Yeah. Damn you. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's great. That's one thing that's cool about the sport is it seems like, from my experience, and I think I still see it today, is that the relationships of the athletes are very respectful of one another,
right.
and as far as supportive and reaching out and stuff. And I hear about like when Jan or Lionel got hurt, that there was support from other people, and I'm sure you got some guys that reached out. You know, well, actually, you didn't let anyone know.
Yeah, only are in a group.
Yeah,
I didn't want an excuse if I was going to race.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like, oh, well, I could have a bad race because I'm injured.
Yeah.
So I try to kind of keep it on the DL. Maybe I took some guys by surprise too. Actually,
you did.
Most of them knew. I know Jan and then Sebi, who was the other third. They both knew that I had an injury. So
The word leaked out.
but yeah, it got out. Yeah.
What would be 3 characteristics that you think make a exceptional athlete or a successful person? What 3 things or characteristics do you think that they need?
Yeah, I think determined is definitely probably the number one. Hardworking. You got to be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And adaptable. You have to be adaptable. I think a lot of people think if they just work hard, keep pounding that round peg into the square,
Yeah.
they're gonna see a result. But you have to be constantly evaluating what you're doing and adjusting, pivoting if you have to put yourself in the right situation.
Well, it's exactly what we just talked about for a lot of this podcast was your adjustments that you had to make.
Right.
You had your goal, but you had to adjust how you approached it. And you did that, and it made it successful.
Yeah.
Instead of hammering into in a square hole.
Yeah. It's not the force you apply, it's, the force in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
It has to be precise.
It goes a little bit with the first one you said as far as determined, right? So what does that look like? Explain a little bit more what kind of state that is, because someone would relate that in different levels.
Right.
To what level or to what?
If you're truly determined, like on the highest level, you're just always willing to kind of put yourself in the right situation. It's prioritizing, really, right? The willingness to prioritize what needs to be done to achieve the goals that you want. When I was swimming in high school, one of the quotes that my high school coach would always tell me was, decide what you want to be, pay the price, and be what you want to be. So you really have to put it in perspective. Okay, this is what I really want, and this is what I need to do, and this is what I may need to sacrifice to get to that place.
Yeah. When did you set the goal that you wanted to win Ironman World Championships, Hawaii?
I'd say, so I started my triathlon career racing Olympic distance, trying to make the Olympic team. But I knew towards the end of that, I went to trials in 2008, didn't make the team, but I knew kind of around that time that I really was meant to do Ironman and I wanted to do Ironman. But it wasn't until 2009 when I went and saw Rinny race her first Kona, and she placed second in her first year. And seeing her at the finish line and then going back with her at midnight for that whole celebration, I realized that I wanted to win an Ironman World Championship. And at that time, I was still on the fence. In 2009 and 10, my running got a lot better. And I was actually in a great spot to make the 2012 team. I was on the podium at both the Pan Am Champs and the U.S. National Champs for short course racing. It was in 2010, after Hawaii, Rinny won that year. So another amazing celebration. I went to an ITU Olympic distance race in Korea, getting points for the whole Olympic qualification process. And I was on the start line there, and there's like 20 people there in this little fishing village that just smelled like fish. And I just came back from watching Rinny win the greatest race in the sport.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't care if I can make the Olympic team. I'm done. This is not what I want. At that time, I wasn't going to win a gold medal. I had a really good chance at making that 2012 Olympic team. But I said to myself, what would you rather do, be an Olympian or win an Ironman World Championship? And I said, I want to win an Ironman World Championship. So I stopped ITU Olympic distance racing and did my first full Ironman the next year in 2011.
So one of the things that I hear in that is that the adaptability.
Yep.
So like you set a goal of saying you want to go to the Olympics, right? Like that was an original goal.
Yep.
But it's okay to reevaluate along the process to check in. Is this still my goal, or what was it about that goal that I wanted to reach, right? Yep. And you realize that it wasn't actually the Olympics, it was the process, but it's just shifted. Right. So you adapted your goal. You didn't quit on it. You didn't give up on it. You just said, you know what? It's changed.
Right.
Because we're not the same person we are today as we were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But in 2011, you went and did your first Ironman and you said, I want to be world champ. And you've been determined in that process.
Right.
And you've been top 10 now, 6 times?
I think 6 times, yeah.
6 times top 10.
Yep.
Gotten second, third, fourth, fifth.
6th, 8th.
All right there. But you're moving up.
Right.
And you got one more spot.
Well,
and you're determined to it.
Yeah, and we go back to our conversation earlier. There's some things you can't control.
Yeah.
My race last year, the Ironman World Championship has happened, I think, 42 times. That performance would have won 40 out of 42 times, right?
Yeah,
that
totally.
was a World Championship level performance. I can't control 100%. That Jan, who's arguably the greatest ever, he's the GOAT, right?
Yeah,
had
100%.
His greatest race ever.
Yeah.
But all I can do is keep putting together a winning performance. And I think it's important too, we were talking about kind of that pivoting and adapting when I went from short course racing to Ironman. If you want to do great things, you have to be fishing in the right pond, My pond is Ironman. My pond wasn't short course racing. It wasn't the Olympics. Sure, I had a chance to make the Olympic team, but wasn't coming home with the medal. I didn't have that run speed.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're in the right pond.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would, looking back in your career, that you would change or you would do different?
I'm not one to have a lot of regrets. I think everything I've done has brought me to this point. Mm-hmm. Still racing at the highest level at 39 years of age. Very small thing. The last 2 years I've gone down to sea level, the month before Kona.
Okay.
I think looking back, I probably would have done that if I would have done that with my other preparations for Hawaii.
So that's helped out a lot.
It's helped out a lot, yeah. It just gives you that extra. You come down from altitude in great shape, but it's hard to back up sessions at elevation. It's just so much harder on the body to recover. So if I can get down to sea level and just bump up 5% for my power on the bike or my, my pace on the run, and then back those sessions up day to day, just really helps just fine tune everything before race day.
Yeah. Awesome.
But hey, you live and learn, right? I mean,
yeah, totally.
It's
But you live and learn and you move on. And like you said, you don't regret that, but just curious about that process and that kind of shows like what one thing have you really learned that's been a pivotal piece
right
in these last 2 years, and that was it. And so, if you move that back a couple of years, maybe you would have had a couple more shots at it, a little bit better placing. If you were to leave anything behind, a lesson that you would leave behind, if you were to only have, let's say a year as far as to live, what lessons, well, one, what would you want to do in this next year? And what lessons would you want to leave behind?
For me, it would just be about family. I've learned that collecting material things is nice, but it doesn't really matter. I cherish the experiences I have with friends and family, particularly my daughter and my wife. So I would collect as many of those experiences as I could because they're so valuable. My niece and nephew were in Kona with me, and my niece had to write some sort of essay to get in for her high school application, and it was about the experience she had with the family in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see, even some of the younger generation kind of realizing that that's really what it's about. It's having those experiences. And from lessons, I've learned that whatever you're doing, you're going to perform better in a happy state. If you're in the right place, relationships, work, things like that. If you can be in that happy space, I really think that's a key to success. I think I perform better when I'm in that state. I'm trying to think of anything else. Do I have any other?
That's pretty good.
And bet on yourself too. I had no right. I was in the Navy. I had a great job. I had full medical benefits. I was in a good spot. But I gave it all up for a chance to do triathlon. At that time, I had no sponsors. I had no income. I was, I had enough money saved. I said, okay, you got 18 months to sink or float and see what happens. But I bet on myself, and I hadn't had the results at that point to really do it. My family thought I was crazy, but I knew from my training that I could do it. So I was just willing to take a chance on putting myself out there, and it paid off, and it changed the whole trajectory of my life. It's the reason I met Rini. It's the reason we have our beautiful daughter.
Yeah.
And it was the best decision of my life.
Yeah, I think that applies to every aspect, just not athletes, but with a job choice or a passion or whatever. Sometimes you just have to take that risk and believe in yourself and go, don't know where it's going to put me, but I'm going to take the leap.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that jump and see where it goes.
And it's easy to do when you're young. You don't have responsibilities, right? But I think it's still something to really consider doing.
All right. What are you most grateful for right now in this moment?
That our family gets to share this whole journey together. The fact that, we get to bring Izzie to all of our races. You should see how many stamps are in her passport. It's insane. She's already been to Australia like 4 or 5 times. The fact that we get to have this whole crazy experience together has made, it's put a whole new life into us in the sport. It's a grind, right? But now to be able to be in this space where we get to do it together and share it, it's amazing.
Well, I am grateful for you and the example that you, as far as, give. And it's so fun to just sit here and talk through this, and to really, it's not just words that you're saying, but I see it in the last few days of being with you, see it in your relationship with your wife and and Izzie, and the value of family, and everything you said radiates through you right now. So I just wanted to say Thanks for that. And thanks for being such a good example to athletes and those that are watching, just to inspire them and to truly just, you're a great example to a lot of people. And we're always cheering for you.
Oh, thanks.
So
well, you thank my parents because they raised me right.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Cool.
Man. Yeah,
Thanks,
appreciate
Chris.
it.
Cheers.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Tim O'Donnell. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with training as well. So again, if you haven't seen the YouTube video, please check the links in the show notes. Also, if you want to check out At A Day, there's also links to that in the show notes as well with the coupon codes. You can go to chrislieto.com/podcast to be able to find those show notes as well.